What if I told you we're in the early stages of a gold rush? And no, I'm not talking about AI. I'm talking about something much deeper. We're entering the conscious economy, where spiritually aligned creators are rising into wealth, power, and leadership. And I don't mean social media content creators. I mean the initiated souls, the creators of reality who live life with intention. Ironically, AI is making all of this possible because now the tools of the old system are in the hands of the awakened. The next wave of millionaires won't be tech bros or crypto traders. They'll be conscious creators who dance the line between soul and strategy with elegance. The ones who value spiritual currency more than financial currency, yet master both. I feel it, you feel it, we all do. But there's one major problem. The old world isn't going down without a fight. And too many conscious beings are still playing nice. They're all light and love, but no fire. All vibes, but no resonance. They get decimated by the system they're trying to transcend. So the question is, how do you win? How do you nurture your consciousness while also achieving complete freedom in the physical dimension? Answer, you need to unlock villain mode. As spiritual as you think you are not going to beat the game sitting on the outside. You have to beat it from the inside out, the same way Neo had to go back into the Matrix to defeat Agent Smith. That's what this video is about. I'm going to give you 3 perspective shifts to unlock villain mode so you can win without losing your soul and rise as a true leader in the conscious economy. Don't subscribe to my channel if you're easily offended. This video is brutally real. Only hit the subscribe button if you can handle the truth. We only engage with fully integrated beings in this ecosystem, so don't say I didn't warn you. Now, let's back up for a second. What is the conscious economy? I've talked about this in other videos. If you haven't watched the 6 laws of the conscious economy or AI is splitting consciousness, then I suggest you go watch those after this, but here's the short version. This is the emerging space where those who nurture their consciousness now will become the future leaders of the world. If you're spiritually attuned and connected to the divine, you have a very bright future ahead of you. And I don't mean this in some new agey, new earth fantasy where the world is just love and light and crystals and ayahuasca retreats. That's not my brand of spirituality. I've been around many of those communities before, and it's just not me. My brand of spirituality is something I call rage. I can be love and light, yet dark and ruthless all on the same day. But what I'm referring to is the practical reality that conscious souls hold the keys to the future. And ironically, AI plays a huge part in this. Here's why. When AI replaces jobs at scale, we're not just facing an economic depression, we're facing the widespread collapse of purpose. Most people's identity is their job: a teacher, a nurse, a firefighter, a lawyer, a doctor, a construction worker, etc. When that's gone, the inner truths they've avoided for so long will come back to haunt them. It's just like Newton's third law of motion. For every rise in consciousness, there will be an equal rise in unconsciousness. And honestly, I don't really blame most people, right? They bought into a system that promised them comfort and security, and that same system will spit them out for the sake of efficiency and profit. And I don't say any of this to scare you. I say it because this is the greatest opportunity ever for those of us who were never meant to fit into the old system. Those who have healed their souls, connected deeply to the divine, and found purpose beyond a paycheck. This gold rush is akin to the California gold rush of 1849, except it's not a physical race for land, it's a spiritual race against time and innovation. But Jose, what does this have to do with villain mode? I'm glad you asked. Here's the root of the problem. The old systems aren't just going to roll over and die. The old paradigms of fear-based marketing, hard-nosed business tactics, and power at any cost are going to dig their heels in deeper, and most conscious beings are way too passive and nice, and too afraid to step into the arena. It's like Carl Jung said about morality. A man, or a woman for the ladies out there, is not truly moral unless he confronts and integrates his shadow. And the unfortunate truth, and really the thing that your favorite spiritual guru will never tell you, is that this passivity is why conscious souls get decimated in business. They have no fire, no backbone, no gravitas to their aura, no mental discipline or ability to pick up a sword and cut down their goals. They fear being seen because it now means that they have to defend their fragile spiritual egos. They pull their punches because they want to play it safe, but kill their authenticity in the process. They over-communicate their ideas because they don't believe their energy alone can influence the room, forgetting that true power is felt before a single word is spoken. And it's this kind of people-pleasing that leaves their bank accounts on empty and their dreams just silly little writings in their journal of affirmations. The old system wins, and that's why most spiritual people you meet are dead broke. Enough of that. This is where your villain mode comes online. The part of you that is so ruthless, so unapologetically yourself and demanding of what you deserve. The part of you that says, enough, I will never abandon myself ever again. I will win on all levels, and not just the moral victory of spirit. That's the gear you're missing. You don't beat the Matrix by pretending you're above it, you beat it from the inside out. Because darkness is no match for light. And unlocking villain mode in your own life starts with perspective shift number 1, business first, spirituality second. Now, this might hurt my business to say this, but it's just the honest truth. And no one else is going to tell you the truth because they don't genuinely care about you. And even if this means you never buy one of my products or services, integrity is one of my 7 core values, so here it is. Spirituality is a business. Let me be clear on this. Your favorite spiritual influencer is about making their bread just like anybody else. And just like with any business, their intention is to keep you as a client for as long as possible. It's the same across all successful businesses. Think about that. Doctors need sick patients to keep coming back. OnlyFans girls are praying that men stay sad and lonely forever. Lawyers are hoping you go through a nasty divorce so they can rack up those fees while your life is in shambles. And unfortunately, even pastors do the same thing. They tell you that the riches are stored in heaven while flying private jets and buying mansions, and yet you're here barely able to afford groceries. They're all doing the same thing. It's called client acquisition and client retention, except they're rebranding it as something else entirely. And so they kind of give you a slice of the solution, but never give you the entire pie, because that would mean you don't need them anymore. So here's the click that gives you the whole pie. Business first, spirituality second. That means your healing era is done. It is complete. It's time to conquer reality for real. It doesn't matter how spiritual you think you are if you are not winning at all levels in the physical dimension. And in truth, healing is a decision. It can happen in an instant. You can get lost in the spiritual rabbit holes of needing to process trauma and do manifestation rituals forever, and it can very quickly turn into endless procrastination and waiting for someone or something to come and save you. As a conscious soul, you're no longer waiting to be rescued. You're saving yourself and being a professional. Professionals get results, and they are resourceful and resilient amongst all circumstances, no matter how much pain or misalignment they may be experiencing. The sooner you realize that spirituality is a business just like anything else, the sooner you will allow yourself to just be a human and simply act. This doesn't mean that you abandon your connection to the divine, but it means that you become as aggressive and unapologetic about your selfish needs as you are about your spiritual cultivation. Which brings us to perspective shift number 2, be selfish. You come first. Your needs come first. Nothing else matters unless you yourself are abundant and victorious in reality. And what I'm about to say in this section, take it with a grain of salt. This is deeply nuanced information, and you need to have a flexible mind to consider the perspective I'm about to give you. But when I say to be selfish, do you think I'm saying to be greedy and ego-driven? Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. Let me explain. Everyone has an ego. It's the part of you that gives you your sense of self-importance and self-esteem. That's why you'll hear in the spiritual space people talk so much about ego, because when you are assigning yourself tremendous self-importance, it manifests as too much pride and entitlement. And ego death is when you dissolve that self-importance and become one with the all and start flowing with reality. But interestingly, how many times have you seen these spiritual gurus with a smug sense of superiority? That's called spiritual ego. Make no mistake, even the most enlightened beings you know have an identity that they are attached to. And while detachment from ego is important on your path of spiritual initiation, it's dichotomous in nature, meaning ego at its core contains polarity. You might say that pride is a negative polarity of ego, and humility is the positive end. And so the natural juxtaposition of this is that pride is bad and humble is good. Now, here's the shift. At the highest levels of spiritual understanding, there is no good or bad. Everything just is. And I can prove this to you. If a baby falls off a cliff by accident, even though it's innocent, it cannot escape gravity. That's because nature follows law. God isn't going to save the baby, and it's not because God is cruel. It's because this reality is governed by law, not emotions or morality. And here's why this matters. Because it doesn't matter how well-intentioned or good you are. God and the universe are not coming to save you. You see, the problem with most spiritual people is that they sit on their throne of enlightenment, proud of how humble they are, and they don't even realize how much of a paradox they're living. They use spirituality like a vanity metric to bypass the fact that they haven't achieved anything exceptional or praiseworthy in their life, and then want to lecture you about how the root of all evil is money. But here's something they fail to understand. Nothing is inherently evil because there is no devil. And hell isn't somewhere you go in the afterlife. It's a present moment circumstance most people endure because they live in perpetual misalignment with their purpose. And even then, at the highest levels of spiritual understanding, it is still all God. Everything is source consciousness experiencing itself, both the good and the so-called bad. Humans are just assigning meaning to their events and life circumstances because nobody wants to be the bad guy. But there's a reason why in order to be good, you must be bad. Because there's something that the real villains of this world have mastered that you're still wrestling with. In the book Conversations with God, one of my favorite books of all time, Neil Donald Walsh in his conversation with God uncovers that Hitler went to heaven. And until you understand the metaphysical reason for why this is true, you will continue to spiral in cycles of self-sabotage, wondering why life is passing you by. Now, this doesn't mean you have permission to inflict harm on others, because other humans will step in and you will face consequences. But I'm more so saying all of this to help give you permission and let go of any guilt or shame you have around being selfish. That's what the real villains have mastered, for you cannot truly be selfless until you are selfish first. Think about that. How much more spiritual and generous can you be with your energy and resources if you spent a period of time being consciously selfish, where you practiced radical discernment in real time and said no to everyone and everything that doesn't contribute something meaningful and valuable to your life? You might feel like a villain for prioritizing yourself, but that's the point. You come first. Stop being so humble. And here's how we link this back to being greedy and ego-driven, because yes, that's exactly what I'm suggesting you do. Because the truth is, you don't even have the capacity to be truly narcissistic. This is actually a common perspective that I give to my clients, because many of my clients tend to be good-hearted souls that are just sick of getting overlooked in life. And interestingly, when they finally follow my feedback to be greedy, aggressive, and demanding, they're like 2% mean and think they're the most terrible person on the planet. Like, they're barely scratching the surface of what it means to be an actual monster who destroys others' lives without batting an eye, and they're just so uncomfortable prioritizing themselves that it just feels unnatural to do so. And that's how most spiritual people are. They're so used to people-pleasing and being nice 24/7 that they don't even have the ability to establish boundaries and say no, or to embrace confrontation and be still amidst the conflict. And in a nutshell, the goal of your selfish era is not to become a full-fledged villain. That's not the destination, but it's really about being 20 to 30% more dangerous and disagreeable, which in reality looks like healthy boundaries and clear discernment. You dissolve all guilt and shame around getting what you desire, and thus you step into a life circumstance where your humility is actually congruent. Because being humble means nothing if you have nothing to be humble about. And this whole section might be triggering to some of you. Like, I can already hear the comments like, how dare you say all of this? But it's the brutal truth of reality, and no one else is going to tell you the inconvenient truth. You have to dissolve this naivety and take off the rose-tinted spectacles. This perspective shift is vital because the matrix of societal programming is still filled with provocateurs and manipulators, and you need your villain mode to punish evil out of your field and get what's yours. In this way, you learn to play the game and beat it from the inside, while approaching it with your consciousness and sovereignty intact. And to do this precisely, I offer you a tool in perspective shift number 3 that will give you the permission to play this villain role at necessary points throughout your journey. And this tool is known as the alter ego effect. There's a really good book on this called The Alter Ego Effect by Todd Herman. The core idea behind this book is to adopt an alternative persona to achieve exceptional results in life. And this is such a powerful tool because it gives you the space to stop and think about what kind of character you want to play. What are the qualities and characteristics of someone who wins? How does that person behave in challenging moments that allows them to win every single time? You give yourself permission to change the mask that you wear. Your personality isn't static. You change your personality all the time. That's where the word personality comes from. The root word of personality is persona, and the etymology of the word persona is Latin, and it refers to the mask worn by actors in theater. Your mask changes depending upon the situation you find yourself in. You don't wear the same mask when you're with your family as you do when you're with friends. You wear a different mask in business negotiations than you do with strangers on the street. This is human nature, and we all shape-shift to varying degrees depending upon the situation and what our goal is out of each circumstance. You're already doing this, and so with Perspective Shift 3, your intention is to consciously adopt an alter ego that is calm in the face of pressure, that is ruthless about your goals and stops at nothing until you manifest your reality. You wear this mask of the villain as a permission slip to be unapologetically selfish about your needs. I stumbled upon this myself when I was in college. When I was in college, I was on the executive board of my fraternity. And whenever we would have pledges, which are basically new members who want to get initiated into the fraternity, they were not allowed to call me by my real name. They had to refer to me as Brother Josie. Now, I'm naturally a very nice guy. I'm very friendly, very welcoming to everyone, but I put this mask on as like the Machiavellian persona of power in which new members had to earn my respect. And interestingly, this is the same mask that I would wear to do business because again, I'm naturally more introverted, I'm more laid back. And that mask served me well in sales and negotiation because it gave me the aura and characteristics of someone who doesn't fuck around and is serious about their ambitions. And funny enough, many of my close friends to this day still call me Brother Josie. That's how I know who my real friends are. But my overarching point here is that this phase of villain mode is a mask you wear. You put it on to give you an edge in how you show up, in the same way that there are infinite realities in the space of variations where you are different beings. There are parallel realities where you are everything under the sun. There are versions of you where you are rich, poor, a sage, a king, a peasant, a scholar, a murderer, a pastor, a victim, an oppressor, etc., etc. And in a way, from the metaphysical standpoint, the alter ego effect is you channeling the version of reality where you are the unapologetic villain that gets what they want in reality. And until you can seamlessly play into that archetype while also being with an integrity of your heart-centered soul, you will continue to find yourself in cycles of limitation and self-sabotage, frustrated that reality isn't bending in your favor. In truth, what you're really doing here is studying the true villains of this world and reverse engineering the one essential aspect of their energy that makes them so effective: the total absence of guilt and shame. It's one of the great paradoxes of life that the people with the purest intentions are often the ones who bury their gifts the deepest, because they're terrified of being labeled a villain. Meanwhile, the actual villains feel no shame or hesitation towards those they exploit. They live for accomplishing their mission by whatever means necessary. Your power lies in integrating the same unapologetic energy of winning and coupling it with your conscious connection to the all. This is the fusion that makes you unstoppable. This is what elevates you to the level of a true professional and positions you as a leader you were always meant to be. We're in the early stages of the conscious economy, and as much as this is an opportunity to go deeper into self and nurture your consciousness, you simultaneously need to approach current realities and paradigms with a powerful intention and learn to play within its current rule set. Passivity doesn't get you anywhere. Compassion without boundaries is self-abandonment, and your first act of sovereignty is to decide to never abandon yourself ever again. I like to think of villain mode as like being a warrior monk, someone who is perfectly capable of unleashing devastation on the world when necessary, that can also sit in stillness and go deep into spirit. And this is your opportunity to do so. Remember, you do all of this with integrity. You do this with a clear mind that you do not engage in interactions with others where your aim is to harm. You always engage in mutually beneficial relationships where all parties win as participants. But just don't forget that you're here to win too. The universe is a theater, and the mask you wear decides what character you play in the show of reality. And when the world tries to strip away what's yours, you pull villain mode from your back pocket and beat the Matrix into submission.